The reason we're running late is because of the economic situation. As a resolution to this, I'll just throw out there that perhaps we could move the MTA project into round 2 and ask Bruce to come in and have that discussion. I don't know where he is. I know nothing about the fueling station discussion. I don't know if anyone in the audience would, but you know, I can't comment on MTA's budget, so I don't know their situation. So that's an idea I'd put out there, but there really isn't a deadline to expend these funds. This can be put off if you want to put it onto a later board agenda. That can be done.
Supervisor Smith?
Thank you. I would prefer to either deal with the entire action today or put off the whole package instead of parsing this up into pieces. But my read on this, the comments that Supervisor McCowan made were MTA is seeking the 20% match or $24,000 for a particular federal transit grant. And so my understanding of how these funds would be disseminated is that they could only use it for that. I don't think they have the latitude to use it for anything else. I mean, if we can just get that question answered, I think that we could move forward today. Or I suggest we postpone the entire discussion for a week and get into the details. I don't know that that's necessary. My read of that is, and I've seen this happen before, sometimes individuals have to come back to you and say, we either didn't have the match, we didn't have the ability to move forward with respect to on the diesel program to do diesel replacement, and then those funds are then reappropriated to other entities. So my read of this is that they have specifically said what this money is for this hybrid vehicle. I don't believe they can use it for another reason. So if we can answer that question, I think we can just move forward here.
The contract would say that it's specifically for that vehicle purchase, and
right.
We only pay on a reimbursement basis, so they'd have to show us an invoice to show that they paid,
right.
And then we'd pay them.
And if then that doesn't occur for some reason in terms of they're receiving the rest of those funds, they would have to come back to us and resubmit their proposal.
Supervisor McCollum.
But I think also the chair's question is, do they have other funds available that they could use for that purchase?
Yeah, that's, you know, and that's the question that I have in general of the process, Chris. You say you don't have any, you know, knowledge of MTA's budget, or I assume any of these other agencies, you know, because you're the guy that comes up with this recommendation, right? You don't have a committee. It's a committee of Chris Brown that does this, right? So if an entity, whether it's a public entity, which these are all public entities, qualifies, you know, if an outfit has an existing, let's say $1 million for capital projects, you put that at the same level as a entity that, say, doesn't have any money and needs this money desperately to move forward. I mean, I think that's a consideration and process that needs to be thought about. I mean, I'm sure you're well aware that MTA, as an example, you didn't know they had $6 million to move forward with a capital project, which could be a building or buying a new bus. But you didn't know, say, for instance, that the city of Willits doesn't have any money for their project. I mean, so I don't know how you can make a true list without knowing some of the history of what these agencies have available in their own pots of money.
Yeah, I did poll everybody, because one thought that I had to get the list to balance, which is something we always wrestle with, is making sure that we can fund as many projects as we can who applied, was reducing funding amounts. And so I did ask all the agencies, first off, you know, if we reduced your award, would you be able to go forward? And the second question was, if you had more than one project, what would be your preference? So like General Services applied for a CNG vehicle, and they also applied for an electric mail vehicle to do the mail route. And they actually said the CNG vehicle was a preference. With the city of Willits, as an example, I did call Paul and I asked him, you know, if we could only give you, you know, $18,000, would you be able to go forward? And he said, absolutely not. Conversation with the city of Fort Bragg was the same. I don't remember specifically what Bruce said when I talked to him about it, but you know, I know that he has got 80%, as was said, in federal funding, and the remainder is funds he has to come up with.
Thank you. Okay, we need to move this along. Supervisor Colfax, do you want to entertain a motion?
Recommend motion.
We have a motion for the
We go
recommend.
forward to accept.
That's recommend
Yes.
action 1 and 2.
Yes.
Do we have a second for that motion?
Second.
We have a second, I guess, discussion of the motion, Supervisor McCown?
Well, yeah, my preferred action, and I would ask the maker of the motion and the seconder to consider, would be to fully fund in round 1 the projects that are currently split between round 1 and round 2.
Fair enough.
Yes.
That
Concur.
met with the approval.
Do you understand what that means?
Yeah, I did some math. It would be another $27,000 from our fund balance, would be the difference, so.
Which would fund
The city of Fort Bragg.
round 1 and round 2?
Right, for the city of Fort Bragg and the DOT project for Grace Hudson or Capella School, either one of those.
So that will put them in.
Yeah, full funding for those. It would not, let me make myself clear, I don't want to cause confusion. It's the 39,000 for Grace Hudson, which was split between round 1 and 2. And we've already talked to DOT because they never know if they're going to get a Safe Routes to School grant or not. We've told them that if the board acts today, it's in the staff report that we will fund either one of those projects with that grant award.
So that would include the Cal Power School project?
It could if that got funded. It wouldn't include,
Yeah.
it's $39,000 to be spent on either one of those projects. It does not fully fund the Capella project. But it gives them match, which makes them more competitive for the safe routes.
I'll settle with that. Any further discussion of the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, actually, we got agenda item 9A2. You have other business you wanted to report to us?
Just a couple of very brief items. Our air monitoring upgrade, we are waiting for the last little parts to come in, which we've spent about $75,000 on this project over the last year, and we're waiting on 3 little cell phone cards the size of my thumbnail. And once we get those in, we can go forward. We're also working on our database project. We're going to build that into our budget for next year to get that finished. And we also are continuing to monitor our state funding situation. But right now, our funding does look secure, which is very surprising to me at this point.
Thank you. Any members of the public want to speak on any issue to do with our air quality management district? Okay, I guess that concludes that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to convene as the Mendocino County Water Agency now. We have with us here our General Manager, Roland Sanford. Roland? This is about an adoption of concurrent resolution of the Mendocino County Board of Supervisors and the Mendocino County Water Agency Board of Directors to conserve the county's water supplies in anticipation of continuing drought conditions. And Roland, I guess that you're responsible for all this rain, so thank you.
Until it starts to flood, then it's not my fault. Well, it is somewhat remarkable. Well, thank you. Just a quick, a little background here for the resolution. We've been talking about this, obviously, for the last several weeks, and since we first brought up the topic of the drought, and since we've done, or maybe let me back up here. I got a little flustered here with all this flood talk. Since we've been talking about the drought resolution for several weeks now, and since then we have received a significant amount of rainfall. In fact, we're now about 60 to 70% of normal. However, despite the rain that we have received, the fact remains that we still are very much